Hey everyone, Kathy the Vegan Prepper here, and we're going to be talking today about labeling your food storage buckets with tape and why that can be a really good thing. Vegan Prepper. Vegan Prepper. When I first got started, I was labeling all of my buckets just with Sharpie, and some of my buckets still have their original Sharpie labels, and some of them are in good shape. There's nothing necessarily inherently wrong with the Sharpie, though I have seen a couple of cons. Number one being that it is not super easy to change the content of the bucket. You have to wipe the Sharpie off if you want to write a different thing on there, which is honestly also not that difficult. Rubbing alcohol will take it right off, although sometimes there can be stains left where you were writing. However, also over time, the writing can get really worn. If you see like here, I've had to redraw this little cup about 50 times. But I think some of this too is the fact that my daughter likes to come in here with her nail and like scratch on it. So anyway, it can get worn off and it can be difficult to keep the label on if you have kids who like to mess with things. But in general, I saw a tip on a blog to label your buckets with tape, and I'm super glad that I saw that. I started doing it basically thinking that I was taking care of just those two things, but I've actually discovered a few other really wonderful things about labeling buckets with tape that I want to go ahead and share with you. For me, I'm not just labeling with tape, I'm also putting the date on the bucket. So as we're sitting, it is currently June of 2022 when I'm filming this video. And as you can see, these are my black beans, and I filled this bucket on May of 2021. And so I know now that I've got beans in here that are a little over a year old, which is no problem. Beans have a forever shelf life practically. Well, it's like 20 or 30 years. It's not forever, but it's a pretty long time. But still, these are the oldest beans pretty much on my shelf. We're only down to here, basically. We have been going through them pretty well, but I know too when I'm doing meal planning or looking at meals, when I'm getting ready to choose which bean or which protein am I using in my meal, that I might want to focus on some of the older beans that I have out here first rather than some of the newer ones. So that's a really great advantage, not just to the tape, but to putting a date. But let me show you too, another thing about putting dates that's also pretty cool. Another great reason to be putting tape on your buckets is you can track not only the contents of the bucket itself, but also the dates and then your refill dates. So like I was mentioning before, like I can get through my black beans first because they're the oldest. Another really great reason for putting the dates is that when you refill your bucket, you now know how much you use in that amount of time. So for my family now, I know that it takes us about 9 to 10 months to go through a 5-pound bag of nutritional yeast. So for us, if I'm building a 1-year pantry, I know that I need 2 5-pound bags of nutritional yeast, and that will more than cover us for a full year of nutritional yeast usage. There are a lot of websites online that give, estimates of what you need per person in a family, say, so many pounds of grains or so many pounds of beans per person for a year's supply of food. And I think that that is fantastic. It's a great starting point. But also by doing this, you can track your family's actual usage so that you know what a year's supply for you actually looks like. So you can stock all these different beans, but like for us, and I know I'm about to get some comments, it's hilarious, but for us personally, for instance, we are not a big lentil family. We just don't eat a lot of like green lentils. We eat a ton of red lentils. We eat a ton of mung beans. We eat a ton of black beans, a ton of pinto beans, a ton of garbanzo beans, and cannellini beans. We eat all kinds of beans, but for whatever reason, lentils are just kind of the thing that we don't eat very much of. And so I know now that for our food stores, I want to focus more on mung beans and red lentils as far as my smaller, more quick cooking beans, which I think are really important to have on hand, in addition to the larger beans, which are a little bit hardier and kind of give you a bit more of like chew when you're eating. But anyway, especially like for low fuel usage and all of that, to have kind of some smaller, quicker cooking beans. But for us, it's just for whatever reason, green lentils just sort of isn't it. We're just not a huge lentil eating family. So I'm probably not going to get another 25-pound bag of lentils once I'm finally through the first one that we got. So anyway, it's just again, something that you can kind of keep track of for your own family and your own preferences. And I know I'm about to get a whole bunch of recipe suggestions in the comments, Look, I'm not trying to hurt lentils' feelings. It's just not something that our family eats a lot of. We eat a lot of other things. But these are really important things to know about your family. And yeah, anyway, tracking this way helps you learn those things. So another really great advantage to using tape is the ability to switch buckets easily. So for instance, this 5-gallon bucket used to be a cashew bucket. We got down to about here since August of last year. So I know that too, again, because of my label here. But basically I decided I don't want to have a full 5-gallon bucket of cashews because I don't think that we go through it fast enough. We went through it much more slowly than I expected to. And so from now on, I will just keep a 2-gallon bucket. Once we get through these, I have another 25 pounds or so of cashews in my freezer. Once we get through this, I'm just going to switch over to a 1-gallon container and fill that up as needed, kind of straight from the freezer, and then just use that and then refill again as needed, because we're just not going through them as quickly as I thought we would. And so again, that's just something to know and learn. You can think you're going to go through something way faster than you do, but as you find out you might not, you can sort of easily switch things around. And so this 5-gallon bucket was filled on August of 2021. And basically when I decided to switch this out for something else, all I have to do is peel the tape off and put it over here and then pour the cashews that were in here into this bucket. And now I have a new cashew bucket. So what's going to happen with this one? Well, I just got a 25-pound bag of organic white quinoa from Azure Standard. And so now I'm going to turn this into our quinoa bucket. So basically all I do, I don't know if you need me to demonstrate writing on tape, but here it is. I'm gonna just find the end of my roll of painter's tape here. It's actually Adam's painter's tape, but I stole it. So here we go. I'm gonna write organic quinoa, and it is white quinoa specifically, but I can't imagine ever storing other kinds of quinoa. Like, we just eat white quinoa. So I'm not going to bother specifying that it's white quinoa, because for me personally, I don't feel like I need to differentiate because other quinoa doesn't exist in my house. So I'm just going to put organic quinoa, and then I'm going to put June of 2022, because that is where we are right now. And so I just peel the tape off and rip it about where it goes. And then I'm just going to quickly look really fast. Okay, so it looks like I do it. Sorry, I know this is not on the camera. It looks like they go about there. I try to center it as best I can, and then boom. This is now the quinoa bucket. And also, I have room right here for my refill. So I don't even have to put another piece of tape when I go to refill this. So basically, obviously, this is not full yet. I'd love to pretend I'm this strong, like, oh, yes, there's 25 pounds. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and refill this with, or not refill this, fill this for the first time with the bag of quinoa that I just got from Azure Standard. The other thing is, because I'm using Gamma lids here, I will mention I washed this out yesterday morning. And so I let it sit for over a day. This is the next morning, but it's been more than 24 hours. It's been sitting. Before I'm filling this, I kind of took it on the ground and went like that, and then looked at it around here just to make sure that no water was coming out from underneath the lid right here. So if you were switching out buckets, like, I don't know, if I were switching from one kind of bean to another kind of bean, I might not even bother going through the rigor of washing it out with soap and water. But because this was cashews, I decided to go ahead and wash it out with soap, sort of out of respect for any future endeavors where, like, I don't know, I might make quinoa for some church function and somebody might be allergic to cashews. And so, you know, like I did a really thorough washing to make sure that hopefully future quinoa dishes would be safe for anybody who was allergic to the previous contents. Realize it's also a really great idea, and this is also what I do before I refill a bucket. I will give it a quick wipe, like with a wet cloth. So like I said, I don't necessarily do the full soapy wash and rinse. for each bucket each time, but I do always at least wipe out the inside with a wet cloth just for any stray bug eggs or whatever, just to make sure that nothing's going to hatch in there, and you know, hopefully we're covered that way whenever I do my refills. So with tape, you can scratch all you want and that is not coming off, which is kind of an advantage over the Sharpie. Like I showed you my hot chocolate bucket earlier, I need to go ahead and just relabel this with tape. But just as another random thing I'd like to mention, this is kind of an honorable mention, this is not about tape, this is about my picture of the hot chocolate on this bucket, is because my little girl loves hot chocolate, and to foster independence, I'll tell her, go get the hot chocolate bucket, you know, so that we can start making the hot chocolate. And so she'll come in and she'll grab it, and I drew this picture on here so that she would know which bucket was the hot cocoa bucket, you know, when she's like 3 and she doesn't read yet, and so she has that picture. So just in general, if there is a bucket that has a thing in it that your kids like, or that you want to do something similar, drawing little pictures can help them find stuff before they necessarily can read yet. And so yeah, I just thought I'd mention that as well. Hopefully that was helpful and gave you some good ideas. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any other thoughts about why this is great. Actually, also let me know if you have thoughts about why this is stupid. You know, like if you think that this is dumb, go ahead and let me know down in the comments below. And if so, let me know your solutions and what you like to do for your own food storage. But anyway, as always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.